Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. This is the underground movement of savage marketers from all over the world. We are not Fortune 500 companies. We are real entrepreneurs with real businesses that have one major thing in mind: to set goals and devour them daily. Because we understand everyone wants to eat, but only savage marketers are willing to do the hunt. Now let's get this revolution started. Hey, what's up, everybody? John Hiley here with the Marketing Revolution podcast and the Marketing Savage Facebook group, coming to you with another live podcast with my guest today, Jessica Dennehy. We are live. We're talking about Jessica is now, as of yesterday, a best-selling author with her new book, Pivot and Slay. And I like that too. Pivot and slay that shit. I love it. So Jessica,
that's right.
Welcome to the Marketing Revolution. Welcome to the Marketing Revolution podcast. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We've been trying to line up our schedules for a little while, and I needed some pink hair on here. I always compliment you on your hair every time that I see you. I like the pinkness of it, right? And so we got you on here
as like something new, and now I realize it makes me memorable, so I've kept it around because now people remember, oh, the girl with the pink hair.
It does.
Marketing.
Yes, it does. Somebody just asked in the comments, is this live? It's live. We are live. Yes. So, all right, Jessica. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, what you do for a living, and then we'll kind of like move into your book. And I want to explore some questions about that. I want to know exactly, what the book's about. Of course, I ordered a bunch of copies, but I haven't had the chance to read it yet. So tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you so much for ordering. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm Jessica Dennehy. I am from New York. I'm a business coach, entrepreneurial coach, and I kind of have an interesting methodology I use because I'm a lawyer. So a lot of my legal strategies I mix with mindset coaching because I know mindset is so pivotal in all of our lives and more so than we even give it credit for. So I have an interesting coaching ensemble here. I intermingle my life coaching and mindset coaching with my business and legal strategies. And it's unique because not a lot of business coaches are attorneys. I bring an interesting perspective because I'm always thinking about things from like a legal liability standpoint. And I help entrepreneurs just kind of get in a better routine with their mind, a better routine and structure with their day, with their business, and I help people make a lot of money. I'm also a big fan of yoga, which has played a huge role in my mindset and my coaching style. It's really played a big role in my life. And before I was all those things, I was a New York Stock Exchange regulatory attorney. And I left that corporate life behind to pursue a business life. And I found a lot of freedom in being an entrepreneur. I opened a couple of luxury barbershops. And now I'm just like a free woman. It's so awesome. I'm loving it. I'm loving life. I wrote a book. I have another one coming out later this year about what to expect in the first 12 months of your business. So I'm just trying to help people get the freedom they need to live the life that they've been dreaming of. It doesn't require you to sit at a desk for 12 hours.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about something that kind of stuck out to me. We talk a lot about energy on this podcast. We talk a lot about, becoming the best version of yourself and delivering that to the world and what that looks like. We talk about a lot about, the darkness and the light. So we try to explore all of that. But you hit on something that you were a big fan of yoga, of course. And I always see your stories. You're always doing something yoga on your stories on Facebook or on Instagram. And you said that plays a big part in your mindset when it comes to coaching. How does something like yoga play that part in your mindset?
Such a good question. And I think a lot of people don't understand this. how fitness can really tie into your everyday mindset and the way that you think about just life in general, but specific to business. Okay, I started doing yoga 5 years ago, basically because I couldn't get out of my own way. I was a ball of nerves. I had stuff going on in my personal life. Everyone is like, meditate, meditate. It's easy to say when you're not having an anxiety attack, right? It's hard to do when you're in that bad mental place. So what I find and what I try to tell my coaching clients is connecting to your physical self is such an empowering, liberating thing to do, because your physical body like feels things before your logic and your fear kick in. And if you're able to recognize those little signs that your body gives you, um, you will be light years ahead of everybody else, because generally those are what people call gut instincts. And it's something that I talk a lot about in my book, is how to find your instinctual self and how to then trust that gut feeling that you're getting. And in business, that comes in handy, because when you're an entrepreneur, you're making lots of decisions every day. And if you sit and question every little thing and you're not following your instincts, you're going to be bogged down in indecision. And that's probably the worst trait any business owner can have. You have to be decisive and take action. And if you don't know what I'm saying, you don't understand, then a great place to start is doing something physical. And don't get scared, because you don't have to go out and like do 75 hard or CrossFit. You could start with something simple like I did, which was yoga. I went to yoga and I was challenged more because of the stillness of it. You think it looks easy until you have to hold the position for a bunch of like a minute or two, and then you're kind of like, your muscles start to quiver and you're kind of like, I didn't even know I had a muscle over there. Where'd that come from? And you start to connect to your physical self. And you can do this with any physical activity. You could start to just become like more aware of your body and these little messages your body is sending you. And when you kind of up the ante a little bit and try something that challenges you, you're able to quiet your mind, and all that chatter that we normally have can't take place because you're so focused on one single thing. And that's kind of what meditation is about, like trying to clear your mind and have one focus on your breath. But it's hard for so many of us to do that. It sounds so intangible, meditating, and you're in your mind and you're in your brain. Most of us, though, can understand a physical connection, like to have your hands like physically on the mat, or to pump, to lift more rigorously. Like most of us can connect to that. And so focusing on something that's more easily accessible to us is a great way to start in finding your gut instinct, finding your quiet mind. And that's why I started to do yoga.
So I see what you're saying with the yoga. It actually, you're focusing on your position so intensely that it's almost like meditation, but you're physically attached to that focus, meaning that, okay, well, if you lose focus, you're just going to fall down. You're going to have to get back up and you're going to have to restructure. Kind of like meditation, which I do, and I talk about it in my book as well. That it's like a little kid. Your mind's like a little kid that's going to run off. You're going to have to grab that little kid and put him right back in the chair and sit that little kid there. And then you do it over and over and over again. And little by little, you begin to gain that focus. And that focus and clarity is a lot. What people don't realize how much they fucking need that shit. I mean, because how many days do you feel like, you're just going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And that's because most people lack the ability to focus. And when you build your focus muscle, it actually slows down time. I don't think people really understand that, but it literally slows down time. And in them days, because you're so worked up inside, you feel like everything's racing by you. You actually become calm inside, which slows down the time. And on a day that you feel like you're running around with a chicken with your head cut off, once you learn that focus and you tap into that power, you'll feel like you have more time than you know what to do with. It's incredible how much our mind controls even the essence of time.
I think an important thing to know about yourself, like learning about yourself is so important, and it's because of efficiency, which is where you just took us. I personally am a machine in the morning. And part of my routine is to get up and exercise because it puts you in this mindset where you're just like, you feel like you're on top of the world and you're strong and you're ready to go and you're gearing up. If I sit down right after my workout, I can bang out more work than other people can do in like 8 hour day. I'm not even joking because I am so focused. I am just going, boom, 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 checking things off my list, getting stuff done because my mind is laser focused. If you take a scattered brain and you try to sit down and do the work and you get distracted by this, you get distracted by that, that's when we turn around and feel like we got nothing done all day. But you have to
Yeah.
find a way to start harnessing that chaos because a scattered brain is just multitasking and not focusing your energy on one thing, and you're never going to get far if you don't know how to stop that train.
Yeah, yeah. And in all honesty, that's like almost like a life hack to break the resistance, meaning that when we sit down and we try to get into the zone, is what Jessica's talking about. So when she works out, it calms her mind to the point where she can step right into the zone. And the zone is a beautiful place because things tend to fall in place while you're in the zone. It's like you get this superhuman ability where one activity stacks on top of another activity and it just flows. And yes, you can get more done in a 45-minute session in the zone than you could an entire week multitasking. It's incredible because we were always taught as kids to multitask. And when I hear somebody say that, no, I'm a great multitasker, I just kind of laugh because I'm thinking that you probably never get anything done, proficiently, or at least to the point to where, all of that energy is put into it. And one of the things that we talked about recently inside my inner circle in a coaching call was specifically how to put your dream or your energy, put all that you have into everything that you do, right? Meaning that as you conjure up this dream, as you conjure up this vision, this thing that you have, this thing that you're walking towards, you actually manifest that inside of you that creates action. And then that action, you put that inside, you put that power inside everything you do, which actually makes it efficient. And we're working on that, inside of the group. But this is you have to be able to understand that you got to step into the zone to be able to do that, to be able to put that power and that
Well, every
energy into
zone
it.
is different.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
that's absolutely true. But it all starts with understanding what you need. And I don't think people take the time to really think about that, right? Because I know what I need. I know that if I don't work out in the morning, I'm not going to be at the top of my game. And then I'm not going to be as efficient. And then that whole morning is going to be run differently. I know that about myself. There's people who work in the opposite way and maybe are more focused at night. But you really need to take the time to take a look at your day and see if you had a really great productive day. What did you do that day that made it productive? What led up to that productivity, that apex mindset? Like, where were you at your best and why?
yeah. Incredible. It's funny that you said that because I got a friend of mine who is a multi-millionaire and he's in the real estate field. And it was very shocking to me when he told me that he works all night long and sleeps all day. And, because I know this guy. He's like one of the highest achievers that I know in the real estate game. And I'm like, so you're saying you stay up all night long and then you sleep all day? And he told me, he says, yeah, man. He goes, like, nobody calls me in the middle of the night. Nobody interrupts me. Nobody sends me emails. Okay. So he's in this state of where he's not being interrupted at all. And then the second part of it was he interrupts his team. So he's got a team that works during the day and they work better without him. Imagine being so damn self-aware that that, like, when you show up, you kind of fuck things up.
Yeah. It's true. It's actually why I started waking up earlier. It's getting crazy now because now I'd almost rather go to bed at 9 o'clock and wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But that's why, because no one will be talking to me. I'll get no DMs, no emails, no phone ringing. My kids aren't awake. And I just have this crazy time to focus. And there's something about the energy outside. It's just like sleepy, it's quiet. There's no, I don't know where you guys live, but like I live in New York, there's lots of cars. There's no cars at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's something about it. It's just tranquil and I can just laser focus. It's a great thing to know about yourself.
That is. And I think people don't fully understand how that works. One, the second thing, they'll try to get focused when they have employees and things like that, and they'll allow anybody at any time to walk into their office and disrupt them. Well, the problem with that is at a level where, at a time in the day where people can, call you, people can walk in, people can text you, people can message you, it's so important to guard that time. Because it literally takes 15 minutes to get past that resistance that it takes to fall into the zone. So if somebody interrupts you in that time, you've lost a half an hour immediately. You lost the first 15 minutes it took you to get in the zone, and it's going to take you 15 more minutes to fall into that zone and get into it. How do you deal?
That's just a product of the corporate world, because like in corporate America, like you're told when you're like a manager, you're told that your people have to have access to you. And I think when you leave corporate America and you start your own business, at first you try to replicate that. And then I think as you grow awareness, you start to make your own rules and realize like, I'm just going to be my best self if I do these things. And I don't really care what other people think because that just works for me.
Right. Some of the best advice that I've ever gotten is that to create a got a minute board, meaning you've got all these people that come to you and they say, hey, you got a minute. Hey, you got a minute. And to create a board outside of your office where it's the got a minute board. And every time somebody comes to you during the day with a question, they have to fill it out and write it down on the board, meaning that you set up meetings throughout your day where you'll bring everybody around your got a minute board and you'll answer everybody's questions collectively. I think it does one or two things. It also makes people become great problem solvers because they don't want to write anything fucking stupid on the got a minute board, right? Like they're not going to go write something they could go Google, but they're asking you because they feel this need for your approval for whatever reason. You're the boss, right? You walked in and maybe you were a little angry that day. You didn't give the hi and the hello like you normally do. So they secretly feel like they need some sort of approval or some sort of connection with you to make sure you're not mad at them for whatever reason. So they think of a question, right? Hey, let's go ask the boss a question. I'm sure surely, if he answers the question, he doesn't seem like he's mad at me, then he's not mad at me, right?
Yeah.
And there's like little things like with human connection that you've got to watch and you've got to protect your time. And I'm not saying that you avoid these situations, but I'm saying you control them and manage them well.
Yeah. I stopped going to my barber shops very often because I felt like I was doing a disservice to them. Like I was interrupting their flow and I was making them all nervous by like being there. And like, they know how I operate is like, if you don't hear from me, you're in my good graces because that means you're doing everything you're supposed to do. And there's no reason for us to like really, talk. And then I come in, I say hi to everybody. If I want to talk to you, most likely it is not good.
It's like, oh shit.
Now that they at first they took that personally, like they wanted this connection with me or whatever. But now that they know that about me, they're like more than happy to have me come in, say hi, make sure everything's right, and leave. And they're like, all right, this is good. This is a compliment.
Yeah. Oh, she didn't talk to me. And then if she goes, hey, Joe, can you come back here? I need to talk to you. The whole barbershop's probably like, ooh.
If they really are, it's true. And I always wear heels. It's just probably something you've noticed about me already. And the shops are like, you'll just hear me click, 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 click. So if you hear that, and then I'm like, hey, you want to come back here and talk to me? Everyone's like, no.
That's the shit you don't want to hear coming at your barber stool. Click, 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 click. Oh shit. So tell us a little bit about your barbershops. You've got these. It's a man, guys. I wish I could show you a photo of, or some pictures, or some video of how awesome these barbershops are. And tell us a little bit about how did you go from an attorney to building these badass barbershops? Mad Men, right?
Yeah, Mad Men Barbershop. We had 3. Now we have 2. We sold one like about a year ago. Well, it's a weird ride. Like 9 years ago, we opened, and there wasn't a real barbering industry back then like there is now. Now that it's kind of a thing. But back then, it was just a bunch of barbershops that hadn't been updated since the 50s. And the choices were to go to one of those or to go to a woman's salon. And at the time, I was married, and my husband at the time was like, there should be something in between where, like, it's a man's place, but it's nice, like the same way a
Yeah.
salon would be nice, but in a manly way. So we're like, let's just create it. So on a whim, we kind of did it, and it took off so much. Clearly, there was other people feeling the same way. There was a need in the marketplace, and we all know that businesses that fill a need are the ones that succeed the most. And the whole thing just took off. People loved it, and we just kind of were like, great. Now let's keep it going. And I ended up leaving my corporate job so that we could grow and expand, and we kept opening more, and we're looking for another location right now to keep expanding. But I think people just like the notion of having a comfortable place where, it's for men, built for men, and not like some women frilly place. But guys like it. They like to take care of themselves, especially, I don't know what it's like in Ohio, but in New York, men like to, take care of themselves. They're into grooming, and people really love it. We started to make our own products. We make
Yeah.
pomades and beard oils, and
Mhm.
we make them locally, which is great because we're supporting other small
Mhm.
businesses. And I love it. It's something I never thought I would be into. I think when people look at me, they're like, "How did you get into owning a barbershop? That's weird." But the best business ideas come from a need, even if you know nothing about the industry. And I knew nothing. Neither of us cut hair. He's a clothing designer. I'm a lawyer. It's like almost like a joke, like a clothing designer and a lawyer walk into a
Yeah.
barbershop. Um, but it worked because business is business. If
Yeah.
you're good at one business, you apply that knowledge to another business industry, it's going to work because business is business.
And the crazy thing is, if you guys were actually barbers and you were a hairstylist, y'all would probably be working there. You know what I mean? That's the thing that happens to people that know the actual skill that they're, of the business that they're creating. They actually do the skill. They get sucked into the day to day, and they usually stay as the technician. And a lot of times they struggle, but from an outside perspective, you not knowing how to do hair and your husband not knowing how, or your ex-husband not knowing how to cut hair, you guys actually had an advantage when it came to working on and growing the business, because you didn't have to sit there and cut the hair. You could really actually focus on what the profit margins look like, without you being the technician that's taking home part of the pay. There's a lot of people that struggle with that. I mean, there's a lot of people that actually make a lot of money being the technician,
Yeah,
and then there's a lot of people that struggle with that for the rest of their entire lives, of not knowing how to step out of the role of the technician and actually run the business.
absolutely. I feel like that is specifically true in this industry because it's mostly the barbershops is a very mom and pop industry, and there's not a lot of franchises. And mostly it's just barbers who are sick of working for someone else, so they want to work for themselves, and they open up, and they don't know how to scale. They don't know anything about the business world, and they just end up cutting hair forever and ever. And that's it. And I think that's the reason why we became so successful in this industry, is because we were looking at it from a business perspective and not a barber perspective. And it really gave us a leg up, and the barbers like it because they're not competing against us, because normally you, like, the owner will take the best clients and the ones who give the best tips, and you'll be competing against him or her. And in our shops, that's not the case. It's actually a big draw for a lot of the staff.
Nice, nice. So let's talk a little bit about the book that you had just written. Obviously, I'm going to be reading it here soon, but tell us a little bit about the overall structure and just the message behind pivot and slay. Like, I want our audience to like understand what that means, and just an overall view of what's in your book. What could people expect to learn by reading and investing time and energy into reading that your new book, Pivot and Slay?
So I'm a big fan of the show Friends, which they try to move a couch, up an apartment building staircase, and they're yelling the word pivot. And ever since I saw that episode, I've just used that word. And when I thought about this company and I conceptualized it, I thought, man, that's such an appropriate word, because life is just a bunch of pivots. And pivots are not random acts, they're purposeful movements that you make to get around a hurdle and a problem. And isn't that what we do every day in life? You know, something always happens that derails our master plan. We come up with a perfect plan. And of course, you know, life gets in the way. And so what do? You have to pivot so that you can slay the day. And so that's really what my company is about. And that's what my book is about. It's about being able to adapt your mindset. Because when you come in with a rigid mindset and you think you know it all and you think you have the perfect plan, that's when you're going to fail. You have to be able to adapt on the fly, trust your inner compass, your gut instincts, and continue to take imperfect action. And I always say that wrong decision over indecision, right? I'd rather make a choice and have it be wrong than sit in limbo, waiting and waiting and not deciding, because the only way we move forward is with action. So the book is going to take you through ways that I've done this myself in my own life. And I only talk about ways that I've actually used. So these are not just like methods I've come up with in a vacuum. Like, these are actual things I did before I was even conscious of doing them. And I think everyone can relate to that. Like, you look back on your life and you're like, oh, if I hadn't made that decision, or if I hadn't made that mistake, I wouldn't have learned the lesson. If I hadn't taken that action, I wouldn't have gotten to XYZ point. So the book's really all about trusting your gut, how to find your gut, how to form a trust with it, how to continuously take action, have the courage to fail, knowing that there's only two outcomes. Either you're going to fail and you're going to learn a lesson and you're going to take that with you, or you're going to succeed and then you made the right choice. Like, when you view life and every decision you make with only those two outcomes, you're not scared anymore. You know, that fear is like left behind you and you're like, all right, let's go. Let's just make choices and make the best choice we can make and see what happens and roll the dice.
Yeah. You know, what you said there, the pivot and slay, the way that you explained it, it reminded me of a book that I read a long time ago called Who Moved My Cheese? You ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese?
Yes, I remember that one.
So there's two mice and they're in this maze and they're just like eating this cheese at one spot of the maze, right? Massive amounts of cheese, and these mice are just sitting there. They're getting fat, and they're these two mice, and they're eating that cheese. And then all of a sudden, the cheese disappears, right? Well, one of the mice looks at the other mouse, and he says, "Hey, well, I'm going to stay here because there's going to be more cheese coming, right?" You know, and days go by, weeks go by. Finally, the other mouse starts venturing off, and he starts finding little snippets of cheese here and there. Well, the first mouse just stays there waiting for the cheese to come back, while the other mouse, little by little, finds little snippets of cheese and then finds a track, and then bam, he's got a bunch of cheese again, right? So how does that apply to your book? That's pivoting. That's like moving. Like, how many people do you know that get stuck somewhere and they're like, no, I had cheese here before and I'm staying here, like mentally, physically, I'm not moving. I'm not looking anywhere else because I know the money's going to come back, and I know it's not going to come back. Yes, you do need to move. Yes, you do need to be adaptive. One of the interesting things that you were talking about earlier, specifically about like knowing yourself and being able to tap into your energy. One of the things that I talk about is that when I have conversations with people, I tend not to think. It used to be like I would have a conversation with somebody if I ran into like an old friend or I had a business meeting with somebody. Afterwards, I would think about what was said, what I said. That conversation reverb playing through your head.
Oh, yeah.
Rewind, fast forward, right? And I learned over time to focus on how I feel afterwards, because sometimes there's a conversation that went quite amazing, went quite good. Something just didn't feel right.
Yep.
And then to top it off, I got to make sure that my heart is moving in the same direction as my gut. That's my rule. Because sometimes your heart wants to like give so much, right? But if your gut is telling you something opposite, it's trying to go the other direction. There's a problem there. And they're
Yeah.
always they're a problem will manifest in that situation when your gut is not in line with your heart. And I don't care if you're talking about taking a new client in, or if it comes to a business partner, like all of that. When you learn to be much more self-aware, that's gonna help guide your choices.
Yeah. I
And then
agree.
you start to have a faith. Like, truly, that's what it breaks down to, faith. One time I was talking to one of my tattoo artists, and I told him about that. I was like, man, you got to have faith. And he's like, he gives me this dirty look because he doesn't go to church or anything, right? Or anything like that. And I'm like, bro, faith doesn't mean I'm trying to take you to church, man. Faith is the belief in the unseen. It just means that that whether you call it God, Lord, Ganesh, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want to call that, the universe for many folks, that there's something that's moving things in your best interest.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you walk with faith towards your goals, that whatever it is that's standing in front of you will either move out of the way, or there will be a bridge built over it by the time you get there.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah. I had a business partner of mine one time, like we were forming this business where we were going to be working with the state of Ohio. And he asked me, he goes, well, who are we going to hire as employees, right? I told him, I said, whoever shows up during the time that we need them. Like, I'm not thinking about who we're going to hire as employees like 4 months from now. That's a waste of my energy. That's a waste of my time. I'm just going to walk with faith, knowing that when that time comes, the people will be there, and they were and still are.
Yeah.
But
I think it has to do with your confidence level personally. Like I look at it, and we're saying the same thing, but maybe this will connect to someone else because a lot of people have that reaction to the word faith, and I get that. But to me, it's like, you're trusting, I'm going to figure that out when I'm there. Like, let's lay the groundwork, let's lay the foundation. And then as we inch closer, like, that's going to come because we're putting the energy and the focus into this. And if you're doing the work and you're, trudging along, doing the work for that goal, and you have the goal in mind, and you're racing to the goal, you're going to get shit done. You're going to find a way. You're going to figure it out. Because I could have stopped and been like, I don't know how to cut hair. I don't know anything about barbershops, blah, blah, blah. I got to figure it all out before I start. No. You start starting, and you're going to just keep going. You build this up, this momentum. You're trusting yourself. You're trusting that you have the power and the knowledge to get yourself where you need to be. Right. And that's not just everything falling in place. It's you willing it to be that. You're focused on that. And that's why you're getting to where you need to be.
Well, it's just like planting a seed. You don't dig the seed up every day to see if it's working, right? You plant a seed with the faith that it's going to burst out of that ground one day, and you're going to have a plant, right? You don't have to dig it up. You don't have to look at it before it's ready. And when it becomes a plant, you're going to have faith that maybe you planted a tree, that it's going to be a tree. You nurture it. You put the little stick beside it. You wrap things around it. You fucking gate it off to make sure shit doesn't eat it. Yeah. And, there's all these things that you do. You nurture it. Yeah. But you expect for it to grow into a full-blown oak tree. You don't have to dig it up. You don't have, once it's growing, you don't have to look and dig up, make sure the roots are good. You kill things that way, right? There's got to be a level of faith there.
Even for me, like a year ago, I had no income because my shops were shut down because of COVID. And I took a pivot, and I started this company, my coaching company. I started writing this book, and it's been months. Now it's 12 months, guys. 12 months before my book came out, before my coaching took off, before all this stuff started happening. But I was working the whole time. I didn't let it get me down. I didn't expect it to happen overnight. You got to keep your head down and keep your eye on the prize. And then, one day that little sprout comes up, and then it's like, boom, like a hostas plant. I don't know how many of you have those, but like one day you see this little thing of green, and the next day it's like a full blown plant. That's how I feel right now.
Yep. It's so interesting. I don't even think I've ever told anybody this on this podcast, but now that we're talking about seeds and how you planted that long ago, and now you're seeing it grow and you're seeing it become there's a technique that I've been using for quite a long time. And I'm in the middle of one right now where I actually took a piece of paper and I wrote down everything that I was going to have in a year, everything I'm going to have in 5 years. I detailed it out like to line by line by line, almost writing my perfect day. And I took it, I folded it up, and I know where it's at, but I put it somewhere where I'll never look at it, just like burying a seed. I don't have to pick it up and look at it. But the key to this is every time you're thinking about it, because I'm thinking about it and talking about it right now, that is your dream moving towards you.
Oh yeah.
So every time as you come to start thinking about it, that's your dream moving towards you. But it's like I took my dreams and I plant them like seeds. And then as I think about them, I'm always thinking, wow, it's coming towards me. It's
I
moving
love
towards
that.
me.
I mean,
Mhm.
I love to write. I'm a writer at heart, right? But I
Mhm.
actually physically write stuff down in a calendar, in a journal. Like I don't have all this stuff on my phone because for me, I don't know. I put it out there into the universe when I put the ink to the paper, and so I believe in that. Like what you just said spoke to me. I might do that. I think I'm going to do that.
I like to physically I like to physically write too. Something about it, something about just throwing it down on a piece of paper. Which is man, this has been an awesome podcast, Jessica.
I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So can you tell the audience how they can get a hold of you, how they can find your book?
Yes,
Give us some information if they want to get a hold of you for coaching, your book, all of that.
you can find everything on my website, which is pivotandslay.com.
Easy. PIVOT and slay.com. All right, Jessica. Well, I appreciate you for coming along on the Marketing Revolution podcast. And for all you listeners out there, just so you know, this is live in the Marketing Savage Facebook group weeks before it gets dropped on our podcast. So make sure you come and become a member of the Marketing Savage Facebook group. I appreciate you. And as usual, I'm going to see you on the next one.